context and in a previous life as well. And we have many happy students who've enrolled at Brunel over the last 2 years, actually, and the university is growing and the medical school is growing and getting a fabulous reputation. Chris and his team are joining Medical Doorway at the GEMS event in Dubai next month. And then we've got some follow-up visits, which we're supporting the university with as well. But in the interim, I think what you're here for really is not to listen to me, it's to listen to Chris and the team there. So Chris, what I'll do is I'll monitor the questions, both that come in on the Zoom, but also on the other social channels as well. And without any further ado, I think you should be able to share your screen straight away. Have you got that ability at the moment?
No, he says you need to disable.
I will change that. There we go. You should have it now. There we go. Over to you, Chris.
Brilliant, thanks, Ben. Thanks for the warm introduction. So yeah, welcome from me. Thank you very much for joining us. It looks like you've got a really good turnout. Really appreciate that. So the aim of this webinar is to keep it short but engaging. I know you're all busy people. To give you some information about Brunel University London, of course, the medical school, the 5-year MBBS programme, all its main key features, and the idea really to give you basically another option to consider when applying to a medical school in the UK. So as I said, Ben, I'm Chris from Brunel. I've worked at various medical schools now in and around London, including Queen Mary and also King's College London. So the agenda for today is pretty straightforward. Information about studying medicine at Brunel. Of course, we'll cover the admissions information and entry requirements and interviews. I don't want to go into too much detail because there's reams of information on the website, and I don't want to just recite that. I'll give you the key information, of course, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end. But we'll keep the session informal. So if you have a burning question or any question at all, just let us know as we go, and we can stop and answer the questions. Is that okay, Ben, or do you have something in mind for?
That's perfect, Chris. You go ahead with the presentations. I'm going to deal with any basic questions that are being asked that are more specific while it goes on, and then we'll read all the questions out at the end. Obviously, for anyone who wants to make an application, that can be done on the Medical Doorway website. We're direct partners of the university. It's completely free of charge, nothing to be gained. Nothing to be lost, I should say, by not applying for Medical Doorway, and everything to be gained because you've got full access to our team here as well. And as I said, we've been working with the university for quite some time, and Chris even longer. So I'll hand over, Chris, and deal with some of the basic questions as we go through. Okay?
Brilliant. So to begin with, of course, it's not just the medical school you'll be coming to, it's the university. So some key information about the university itself. Reasonably well established, going back to 1966. Very much a research sort of intensive university across 3 colleges. We have a reputation for delivering first-class health professional courses, as well as medicine, such as nursing, physician associate, physiotherapy, for example. We also offer life sciences, biomedical sciences, and courses and health courses like that. We're certainly a large university, over 8,000 international students, now over 11,000 home students, and very diverse. We have over 150 nationalities represented on campus, and that's reflected in our international outlook, 20th in the world. And for those of you who like sport, I'm happy to say we've got world-class sports facilities. Even so, Usain Bolt actually used our sports centre for his training in preparation for the London Olympics. And I know he's been back since to train as well. So for those of you who don't know where we are, London's a big place. We are on the edge of West London there in the top left-hand arrow, in a town called Uxbridge, on the Metropolitan line and Piccadilly line. Very well connected into central London, just a short tube journey ride away to central. And new to London, you've probably heard this, well, some of you who have been to London recently, there's a new multi-billion-pound Elizabeth line that gets you into central London in a matter of minutes, and that's a short bus ride away. So, yeah, connected to central London, but not right inside where it's obviously a little bit too busy for some people. Talking to our students and their parents, they do love the fact and proximity to Heathrow Airport. I actually drove from Heathrow this morning and it took me about 15 minutes. So that's obviously handy for long weekend travel, half term, and of course your trips home and back. And this is pretty much all our campus. There's a little bit more around the sides. We pride ourselves on being a very much one site, large campus with everything in one place. For example, student accommodation, all the teaching, as I said, all the arts, all the sports, pretty much everything. The medical school, as you can see there in the middle, is in the heart of the campus. Again, close to the student accommodation, and just around the corner, it's probably about a 10-minute walk away, is one of our partner hospitals, Hillingdon, and that's where students will be doing a lot of their training. And as a sort of a sideline, when you're looking at medical schools in the UK and in Europe, you want to find out where the hospitals are located, because that's really important. You don't want to be traveling sort of 2-3 hours away to a hospital. But so all our hospitals are close in the local area. But more on that later. So onto the course itself. So I think I can still say we're brand new, 2 years now, which we're still very excited about. We welcomed our second cohort of over 100 international students this September. For 2024 entry, we have 100 places available for international students. And that's probably more than most other UK medical schools. So obviously you have a better chance of securing an interview. So yes, we're a new school, but within a very well-established College of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences. We offer the standard 5-year MBBS, which is recognised as a PMQ, which is a primary medical qualification, and it's recognised around the world. But important to note, if there are any Singaporeans in the audience, for now, you won't be able to practice medicines in Singapore. Although we do have Singaporeans in the course, they will be training and practicing medicine in the UK. So you may know this already. If you don't, it's important for you to know. So your visa as an international student will let you be in the country for 7 years. So that's 5 years on the program MBBS, and the 2 years further training, which we should call it FY1, FY2, a UK foundation program. And that's a 2-year postgraduate training program that you can apply for after the course. So students may choose you have the option obviously to do that in your home country, or you can stay in the UK for a further 2 years. Just to note, yes, we're a new medical school, so we are working closely with the General Medical Council, and we will receive full accreditation from the GMC once our first cohort graduates, which I believe will be in 2027. And then finally, if you're interested, I know I get asked this quite a lot, especially from parents, are we listed on the World Directory of Medical Schools? Yes, we are. So feel free to have a look, and you can see the other new medical schools on there as well. So I said right at the start that the university itself is diverse, but also is the medical school. So this is what our first 2 medicine cohorts look like in terms of where our students come from. So indeed, incredibly diverse medical school. We have medicine students from over 50 different countries, which are listed here. You might be able to spot your country, no doubt. But mainly sort of a large proportion come from Hong Kong, India, Australia, Middle East, mainly UAE, and Canada. So outside of study, there are many things our medicine students get involved in. Of course, they're very busy, but they do have time for some fun. On campus, there's over 100 different clubs and societies to get involved in, including the new Medicine Society, which our very own medicine students pioneered last year. And that actually gives students a chance to connect with other medical students in London. We have our annual induction ceremony every year. That's in the top right-hand photos. We've got the second one approaching, actually, and students get a chance to perform to the audience. And this summer, as you just saw there, they organised a very successful medicine sports day, which was a house v house the event. So once you arrive at the medical school, you'll be allocated a house, and your students remain in that house for 5 years. So, being a new medical school, we have state-of-the-art, brand new clinical teaching facilities, something that we very much pride ourselves on. If you're interested, we have quite a nice virtual tour on the medical school website, so you can have a closer look. But the newly refurbished building includes 2 simulated hospital wards. So that's where we train. You just seen that one there in the bottom right-hand corner. That's where we train students, making sure they're prepared and confident on their clinical placements. We have a large anatomy centre, which is, I guess, one of the highlights of the school. 2 clinical skills laboratories, 18 communication skills rooms, and that's where we prepare students for general practice placements, or I think you may call them family medicine in some countries. We have a student social space just for medicine students, and that's actually quite unique at a medical school. And then we have the student support and wellbeing office right in the middle of the medical school as well. Again, that is just for medicine students. So this video will stream very much depending on your speed of your internet. But the main point here is team-based learning. It's the main method of learning at Brunel Medical School, otherwise known as TBL. Very exciting, interactive, engaging way to learn. This is one of the TBL sessions going on now on campus. We're one of the few medical schools in the world to use TBL as the main method of teaching at a medical school. Other medical schools are following suit and actually using TBL. I won't mention some other London universities as well. And it's an alternative to lectures, to seminars. So there'll be no lectures, no falling asleep in the back of a lecture anymore. And it's an alternative to problem-based learning, otherwise known as PBL, which you may have heard about as well. So it's been proven to be what we know is firsthand from our students and other sort of research documentations. It's a very exciting and engaging way to learn. And as you can imagine, you're learning in small teams. There's a very high level of information retention compared to learning in the back of a lecture. So you'll be in groups of 6, facilitated by our clinicians and academics. It's now a very modern way of teaching, popular in the UK, increasingly in the US and Singapore. So if you are interested, please do have a look at the TBL video, which is online. So I think one of the key elements, certainly in year 1, is anatomy. And this is from what I've been hearing, one of the reasons why students apply to Brunel is the way we teach anatomy and its facilities. And it's certainly one of the most interesting elements of the MBBS. Of course, there's clinical placements, which I'll talk about in a minute. But at Brunel, you're going to be taught using real-life human specimens. We call these plastinated specimens, which are museum-like quality, which is very unique for medical schools. A lot of other medical schools still use quite the old-fashioned cadavers, and this is a much more sort of modern approach to teaching. And students are also taught by some of the most experienced professors in Europe. Actually, pictured there is Professor Abrahams, one of our professors, and he's actually written many of the anatomy books that you may have seen in quite a few of the more popular bookshops. So, clinical placements. We can't talk about medical school without clinical placements. It's core to any medical school. At Brunel, you'll be doing it from the start all the way to the finish, years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to be meeting patients right from the start of the course, much earlier than other medical schools. And your clinical placements are in hospitals located in the surrounding area of Greater London and the southeast of England, which I'll show you in a minute. And the general practice surgeries are also in the local area. Excuse me. So what this means is, being in sort of, the West London area, you have a very wide and diverse patient population to treat, more so in other areas in the UK. So it just adds another sort of element and challenge, let's say, to your training and your practice of medicine. So you're going to be on rotation, you're going to be working in hospitals, community health centres, and specialist areas such as emergency medicine, and of course in GP surgeries as well.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're interested in the hospitals and partners that we are attached to, please do look at the medical school website under clinical placements, and you can have a closer look at the Google map, and you can really sort of look in at where they are, and a little bit of information about the hospitals as well. They're about, I'd say, no more than less than an hour's drive away. But on this list here, I won't go through them all, but there's some of Europe's leading hospitals and centres that you're going to have experience in. For example, the Royal Brompton in Chelsea, internationally renowned heart and lung centre, certainly one of the best in the UK, if not Europe. And I've mentioned this before, but you've got Hillingdon there, which is our very close partner hospital just off our campus. So we are actually on that map where the orange is a bit of a mortarboard in the middle there, and you can see the hospitals located around. So that covers, I guess, the key features of the course, why we think, and what we know, why we think our students enjoy studying medicine at Brunel. So we'll talk about some of the application details now. There are some important points to remember here. So I would encourage you to apply to Brunel Medical School directly to the university with the support of Medical Doorway. They can give you all the support you need to make a good quality application. I'm sure Ben will agree. There's no advantages or disadvantages of applying directly. Well, the main advantage is you can actually apply after the UCAS deadline and free up one of your UCAS spots. I guess that's a big advantage. But for Brunel Medical School, application is open for 2024 entry. And because you can apply directly, we don't necessarily have a deadline. But what we do encourage you to do is apply by latest early November, late October this year, and then you're going to secure, if you're successful, you'll have an interview in December, which we'll talk about, and then pretty much before our Christmas, you'll know whether you have an offer. Otherwise, if you apply in January, you'll be then interviewed in February or March or even May. So do apply early. And we have, as I said, we have 100 places available. So once those 100 places have been filled, that's when we'll close application. And to give you an idea, that happened around about April, May last year. But demand's increased, so that might be sooner. And yes, sorry, annual tuition fees, 49,395. I'd say pretty standard for a decent medical education in the UK. It's obviously cheaper than the US, more expensive than a lot of other countries in Europe.
Yeah.
And in terms of the UK, we're probably sit pretty much in the middle of where affordability for medical school.
What was his SJT then? Okay, yeah, no, he's not going to be eligible for the private that.
So as I said, all this is on the website if you want more information, but the general requirements are, and this is actually the first one, unfortunately catches a lot of people out, and it's just the way the medical schools in the UK are set up, but you would need to be 18 by the start of the course, which is, it depends, but it's normally late September, early October. It was the 6th of October this year. And that's purely because you're going to be meeting patients, and legally you need to be 18 to have the patient contact. English language is IELTS 7. You need satisfactory personal statements, including your work experience. I'm not going to talk too much about work experience because there's a lot to talk about, but there's a very helpful FAQ guide on our website you can have a look at. But I always say work experience is for you, not for us. You might do, a week's work in a hospital and absolutely hate it. But it will give you some experience and something to talk about at your interview, possibly as well. You might be asked, why are you interested in medicine? And you can say, well, I had this work experience in this surgery, it was great, or I found this challenging. So it certainly will help your application. And you'll need a satisfactory academic reference. And the key point there is that you must have known your teacher or counsellor or your contact at the school for more than 6 months. So in terms of academic qualifications, most of our applicants will come with A-levels or IB. There are other qualifications we'll look at in a minute, but that's the vast majority. For A-levels, minimum we ask for AAB, which must include chemistry or biology, and maths or a second science, which could be chemistry, biology, or physics, and then the third subject. So chemistry or biology, maths, second science, and then the third subject. That's quite unique for medical schools because most medical schools, you'll certainly need chemistry. Ours is chemistry or biology. For IB, we ask for 36 points minimum, and that must include high level 6 in chemistry or biology and high level 5 in the second science. And again, the second science could be maths, so chemistry, biology, physics, or maths. If you have been in the last few months sort of serious about studying medicine in the UK, you should hopefully know about the entrance examinations. We accept UCAT, which is a clinical aptitude test taken at a local test centre in your home country. There are hundreds around the world now. And UCAT must be taken before you apply. So UCAT has closed now for this year. But I think what we do say is, it's not the end of the world if you haven't taken UCAT. There are a small handful of students that will get interviewed without UCAT. So do apply if you haven't done UCAT, but just to be aware that your application will be at disadvantage without it. The question that we receive all the time is, what's the UCAT cutoff score? Because most medical schools will have that, which will gives you an idea of how strong you are. At Brunel, we don't have a cutoff score, but we do use the UCAT score for invitation to interview. So the way we do it is we rank all the UCAT scores, put them in order, and then we take the top scores and invite that group to interview. So let's say it's the top half. The top half will have an interview invite. The second half will be rejected. So no cutoff score, just aim to do well, and that will put you in a good chance of getting an interview. The only thing we do have is if you get the 4 in the SJT, which is the situational judgment test, your application will be rejected. So I don't know, Ben, are there graduates in your audience or are they mainly school leavers?
There'll be a mix, mainly school leavers. There might be the occasional graduate who's perhaps based in the UK. So
Okay.
I think those graduates, for those who apply for graduate entry medicine, the university is also accepting the GAMSAT this year as well. Am I correct on that, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. So again, quite unique for medical schools, and great for our students is that we accept graduates. So normally graduates would need to, when I say graduate, it means you've done an undergraduate degree already, like a BSc, in a health related program, typically biomedical science, pharmacology, something like that. And most medical schools in the UK won't accept graduates, and if they do, they have to be on the 4-year graduate entry program, which is extremely difficult to get a place because it's very competitive. So in short, we accept graduates. You'll need to take have a health related undergraduate degree. You'll need a 2.1 minimum or equivalent. If you're not sure about the equivalencies, please ask Ben. And then, as Ben said, you do then, as a graduate, have the option to take the GAMSAT entry test instead of the UCAT. They do have their pros and cons. One of the cons of GAMSAT is it's a day long, so you may not like that. But some students find the GAMSAT easier to answer the question. So I'll certainly do your research on that. And like I said, graduates have the choice of taking the UCAT or GAMSAT. And again, quite unique for medical schools, as most medical schools just accept IB and A level. We accept a wide range of international high school qualifications from all over the world. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but on the entry requirements part of the website, you can see there's a PDF document with them all listed. I'll put my email address in at the end, but you can email us and I'll check with admissions that it's accepted, or you can ask Medical Doorway. But typically applicants should have a pattern of grades equivalent to AAB at A level. So again, it's the chemistry or biology at the highest level. And then second science, which can be chemistry, biology, physics, or maths. There's one qualification that we don't accept, which is foundation qualifications. It's quite rare for medical schools to accept them. I know there are a couple, but at Brunel, we do not accept foundation qualifications. So I think finally, certainly not least, before we go on to questions, is the interviews. So we can spend a bit of time on this one. So if your application is successful, which we hope it is, we will invite you for interview. So this year, the interviews will be held in December, February, March, and May. So as I said, if you get your application in for October and it's successful, you'll be interviewed in December rather than waiting all the way through to February. Like most other medical schools now, ours is the MMI or VMMI, if you like, which is the virtual multiple mini interviews. Virtual because they're online. I guess a tip for you as well is if you're more comfortable being interviewed face-to-face rather than online, you might want to look at medical schools that do the face-to-face, more traditional panel interviews. But if you don't mind being online, certainly apply to Brunel, because all interviews are online. They are 6 scenario-based mini interviews, each lasting around about 5 minutes, and each with a different interview assessor. So as it says there, you've got 5 mini interviews, essentially, or 6. And applicants of the highest score are made offers. So you don't necessarily need to study for the interviews, but you definitely can prepare. You only need to Google popular MMI questions 2023 or something similar, and you'll have lots and lots of pages to go through. And medical schools don't necessarily they don't want to catch you out. They want to know exactly why you want to become a doctor sometimes, so you need to have that question sort of laid out, and the answer there isn't because my parents are doctors, which sometimes comes up, and that's a red flag for us. We want to know, what your motivations are, what your skills are, what your abilities are, and why you're suited to medicine. So yeah, certainly have a look at all the questions. If you want some extra support, there's certainly other external organizations that you can have some training on as well. I think the main element that you can practice is just practice doing online interviews. So you can do that with your friends or family over Zoom. You know, do a mock MMI interview, get some questions up from the internet, record it, you know, play it back, see where you went wrong. Because what you do find, or I find sometimes, is that, you know, students aren't necessarily used to having an interview online. It's often quite odd. It's still odd for me talking into the laptop now, rather than being face to face. And then finally, I think, you know, the NHS, National Health Service, you're going to be working in it with them for at least 5 years. So, you know, you probably want to do a bit of background research on the NHS. I'm not saying you'll get a question on the NHS, but it's important to know. And also do a little bit of background reading on the method of teaching as well at the medical school that you're being interviewed at, whether it's TBL, PBL, or, you know, standard lectures. Again, that might come up at interview. You know, you like working in teams. That's why I want to come to the Brunel, etc.
And Chris, any applicants who apply through Medical Doorway, if they want to have a Zoom call to go over how MMIs are structured, you know, my background is admissions, etc. That's something we offer all of our students should they want it as well. So someone asked a question about what are the different benefits of applying with Medical Doorway. Well, first thing is it's free because the university invests in us. And the second thing is we can help you have those kinds of mini preparations even before you step in to the real interview. That's one of, I'll answer the question in more detail later, but that's something that we can offer the students as well. And we do offer our students who apply, not just to Brunel, but to other programs as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's great to have that support. I'll take Ben up on that if I was you. And I think, yeah.
Okay. So I want to say thanks, Chris, for that. We didn't want to keep everyone, you know, online for an hour's worth of PowerPoint, especially because I realize if you're dialing in from Hong Kong, it's quite late in the evening or mid-afternoon if you're in the UAE. For those students that are online now, I want to watch a recording of this. It is actually being streamed on YouTube, and that automatically saves it onto our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page as well. And then an email reminder of that recording will go out after this. What I'll do before we go through the questions is quickly show people how to apply via the Medical Doorway website, which is extremely easy. So if you go to medicaldoorway.com, there's different ways to apply. You could click apply now on the left-hand side, and that will automatically bring up all of the application forms, and Brunel is conveniently placed right there in the middle on the second row down. Alternatively, if you click universities, and sorry, I've got that many windows open on my screen, click universities, click on Brunel University, all the details of the university are here, and then a link to the application form is there as well. This form is mainly to collect your data. It takes no more than 10 minutes to complete. There's some uploads that you've got to do, and then we'll reach out to you for any further information once we do it. The critical things here to remember are that this will not then interfere with your, your 4 UCAS options. And one of the other benefits is the personal statement in this particular case can be tailored to Brunel, which, as opposed to uploading via UCAS, means you've got a generic personal statement. And often universities do like reading information that's specific to them as an institution, because they're looking really at the right fit between, are you the right student for Brunel, and is Brunel the right university location for you, based on the various on the various aspects of evidence that you put into that personal statement, because you're going to be spending the next 5 years of your life at Brunel, nearly as much time as you spend at secondary school. So it's important that we help you find that right fit. So Chris, if that's okay, if we can go through some of the questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll wrap up over the next 20 minutes. Someone, I did answer it in writing. They asked about plastinates and about cadavers. Plastinates are actually cadavers. Basically, it's a body that's been donated, and it's had the water removed from it and silicone replacing the water, which effectively treats it like plastic, because things decompose because of their water content. Remove the water, stick something else in there, it won't decompose. So plastinates are actually human specimens, which, based on the way they've been treated, can last a lot longer. The bodyworks exhibitions, those kinds of things, they are effectively plastinates as well. I've worked with cadavers in the past. I've dissected with cadavers, and I've taught students anatomy in my work as a physiotherapy tutor at Keele University many years ago. And I've also worked with plastinates as well. Both give you a similar type of experience, but the plastinates are there to last a lot longer. And given the Human Tissue Act in the UK and etc., often you'll get more access to better quality plastinates than you will for cadavers, as my experience, especially in the UK. So don't worry, plastinates are not simply plastic models. They are actual cadavers that have been treated in a way to preserve them for longer. So let's go down the questions one by one, Chris. And
yeah, of course.
Someone has asked, what are the eligibility criteria for international students? I think we can deal with that one quite quickly, because obviously there's the A-level and IB criteria Chris has mentioned. On the Brunel website, they do have a whole host of qualifications listed for those that have perhaps gone through the US high school curriculum, HKDSE for Hong Kong, CBS for India, etc. They're all on the website, but alternatively, we have them here at our office. So if that's something you want more information on, rather than reel them all off now for people, that's something we can provide individual detail on if you get in contact with us at Medical Doorway. Someone's asked about intercalation, Chris. Is there an option for doing intercalation?
But now, no. And one of the main reasons being is that, although I must say that because we're now open to home students, we do have UK student places available. Intercalated degrees are more popular for home students, and it's mainly due to cost, because an extra, another £50,000 to study an intercalated degree essentially is quite a lot. But so in short, no, but there might be some aspirations in the future to offer them.
Thank you. So, Chris, when do the students usually start clinical practice? I believe it's quite early at Brunel, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's beginning of term 2 is when you're going to be at meeting patients in surgeries and working with the doctors. So yeah, very early. But you will have one term to be prepared for us to prepare you for. So.
And that's really essential. So you start to build those general patient and professional interactions up very early, because the benefit of then is you carry that across into the classroom to get more from your academic learning experience as well. And that's something I've noticed in my background in education, in medical and healthcare education. I think this question was dealt with online, but someone's asked on the website, it appears if applicants are 18 by September of the first year, what would be the process for those who become 18 in the same year of high school graduation, but after September? As Chris said, it's all down to the start date of the course. This year it was October. Effectively, if you're going to be over 18 after the early October, while the university will look at your application initially, the likelihood of you being able to be admitted is low, and they have to wait until you're 18. I think the 24th or 27th of September this year, Chris, is the kind of the D date.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone's asked about, does Brunel offer partial funded or fully funded scholarships for international students? Well, there are no fully funded scholarships, but Chris, is there a scholarship system that Brunel has in place now, even if it's partial?
Yes, there are 3 partial scholarships available for international students. They're worth around about sort of just over £30,000 each. That's spread over the 5 years. So it's not full scholarship, but it's something. I think also to be sort of considered as a scholar in medicine will hold you in good stead for the future as well. And the main point in terms of the admission side of things is you don't have to worry about anything, because you don't apply for the scholarship. All you need to do is perform well at the interview, which you'll be doing well anyway, because you need to get an offer. And then what we do is we take the highest ranked candidates at interview and invite them to a separate interview for the scholarship. And that won't happen until sort of, late spring, early summer next year anyway. So don't worry about scholarships, just do well in the MMI and then see what happens.
So for information, the scholarship is not a means tested scholarship. It's a achievement-based scholarship based on your performance on the interview, which, going back to what we said before, is a great idea to speak to Medical Doorway or apply with Medical Doorway, so we can help you prepare for that interview in a much more efficient way, in addition to the different resources you can find online. And some of the resources out there that are freely available for MMIs are fantastic, and I've diverted students to them on many occasions. So a question about TBL. This is a good one. I like questions that are very specific to the presentation rather than generic. It shows that someone was listening. So is it correct that the TBL sessions will be held at least twice a week? Okay. And does the TBL completely replace lecture-based learning?
So let's do the last part of the question first. Yes, it does completely replace lecture-based learning. So although you will be listening to lectures online in preparation for a TBL session, but you won't be in the traditional lecture theatre, taking notes at the back. And then is TBL happen twice a week? It's actually more. It's about, I think it's about 4 times a week, TBL, and that's especially in years 1 and 2. And then I think as I know as the course progresses, it's less TBL and more clinical placements. But yeah, I think once you start, you will be involved in TBL pretty much all the way through years 1 and 2. So if you don't like working in teams, you'll need to think about not applying to Brunel.
If you don't like working in teams, really think if medicine's the right career for you.
Exactly.
That's part and parcel of and not just working with teams of doctors. You'll be working with what we call the multidisciplinary team. Remember that one for interviews, everyone. The multidisciplinary team. You'll be working alongside people of various different professions, including administrators, including more technical-based staff, as well as professional-based staff like physiotherapists, dentists, midwives, nurses, etc., right through your career. So so TBL is really going to be the way that you're going to be having a career, not just an educational experience. So someone's asked what are the examples of the support that Medical Doorway offers. Well, as I said, our service is free of charge because it's paid for by the university. So we process the application for you, read your documents, make sure everything's done. The other benefit is you can contact us anytime you wish, rather than if you've got a query about the university. Often students can email the university directly, and it might take a while for the university staff to get back because of the amount of physical work they've got to do and the other questions that have been asked. So it's always beneficial to come to Medical Doorway first with your questions, because 9 times out of 10, we've got the answer you need and can answer it directly on email, over WhatsApp, or even an individual consultation with Zoom. That's one of the major aspects of what we do. Other things regarding, advice about visas, etc., the exam, all of those kinds of, the interview, I should say, all of those aspects are things that we deal with on a daily basis in the office here. So yes, you don't have to apply with the support of Medical Doorway, but there's nothing to be lost and everything to be gained by doing so. So someone's got an IGCSE of 9 in English language and English literature. Will that replace the IELTS requirement?
I will double check this with admissions, but I would imagine so. Yes, it sounds very, very likely.
Usually it does, but that's something I'll definitely will get back to you on if that's something you need to check. But in our experience, if you've done IGCSE and you've been educated in an English program like the A-levels or IB, usually you would be exempt from IELTS in particular in certain circumstances. Then on that subject, someone said, if someone's taken IELTS and got less than 7 in any of the 1 components, should you bother applying? My answer is yes, because you can always retake IELTS, Chris. Am I correct with that?
So yeah, it's very typical for applicants to apply with the lower IELTS, and then they have, as long as you meet the entrance criteria before the start of the course, so you retake your IELTS then and pass, then fine. So we do offer language. We have a language school, a very good one on campus. So some of our international students will come on just before the summer, actually, to do their course. Some of it's actually related to medicine as well. And then they'll take the IELTS again, pass, and then start the course. So yeah, that's a normal route.
Yep. Okay, someone said, is it worth applying with an AS certificate? Well, if your AS is your exit qualification, you will not be eligible to apply to Brunel. If you've banked AS but are continuing to A2, then yeah, of course, we can continue your application. But if you're completing school or leaving school at AS level, then you're not going to find an option at any British program, and actually most European programs, again, require full A-levels as well. Someone's asked, what's the percentage of people invited for an interview after the initial review of their application and ranking of UCAT? So do you have that? I don't get.
No, I don't have. I'm not privy to those scores. What I can give you is a ballpark figure of application to enrolment. So typically we get about 1,400, 500 applications a year for 100, 120 places. That gives you an idea. So, but bear in mind, a lot of those will be just rejected straight away because they won't be the right age, they won't have the right criteria. So you can probably, whittle that down quite a bit straight away. But that gives you an idea. So, as with any medical school, it is competitive.
Yeah. So someone said, are you at a disadvantage if you apply as a home student? Well, Medical Doorway can't help you as a domestic student. I think the university previously was only for international or the medical program, I should say, sorry, was only for international students. But this year, I think you've got 50 seats for domestic students, Chris.
Yeah, so I mean, you're certainly not at a disadvantage. I would say, and it's hard to say how many applications we will receive. We may have thousands, so you might be at a disadvantage, but you may have less. So very difficult to say, to be honest. I mean, we have 50 home places available thereabouts, and 100 overseas. So I mean, it's less, but again, in this sort of late stage, we're not expecting a lot.
You're not going to know that until the 16th of October anyway, are you, Chris? Until the UCAS deadline, because that deadline, I am assuming, is fixed for home students as 16th of October.
Yeah, although we will remain, the application on UCAS will be kept open a little bit longer for late applicants as well.
Okay. Someone said about dentistry, and you don't have a dentistry program.
No, unfortunately not.
We'll have to look at other options for you. Okay, James, I can answer this question and then Chris can come in as well. So someone's asked about if you're a UK national but not resident in the UK for schooling, how are you categorised from the quota perspective for international versus UK? The question's not about fees because it's understood that the international fees will be paid because the person doesn't qualify for domestic fees. So my answer to that is you're quoted with the international students because that's right, not on your passport, but on your fee status. One thing that will happen, James, and this has happened to a student we've had 2 years ago, is they were a British student in Hong Kong and they did a fee status query, and there are a few technicalities, and the student actually qualified as a domestic student. So the university, the minute they see your British passport, will give you a fee status query document questionnaire to complete, which will then enable you to be determined whether you're international or domestic for fees. Someone's asked, is the webinar going to be uploaded online? Yes, it will be available on our YouTube channel because automatically it's streaming there. So will remain there as an archive as well. If you go to Medical Doorway on YouTube and click on kind of live, all our recordings, this one and previous ones that we've also done with Brunel in the past as well, are there. So the question, next one, is about the assessment method not for the admission, but on the actual program. So how are the students assessed as they progress through the course?
So that's a good question. So in short, assessment happens all the way through the year. We sort of call it programmatic assessment. So you don't just have a final exam. I guess it's sort of the modern way of assessment now. So it'd be a mix of coursework submitted online. In and amongst the TBL, there are tests which will be marked on and will be part of your final sort of assessment mark. And then there are some sort of final term invigilated exams as well for you to do. So it's a mix. And then you have the OSCEs, which are the objective structured clinical exams, where you're going to be sort of working with doctor and actor patients, a lot of physical examination as well. So yes, so assessment is happening all the way through the course with no big test at the end.
Yeah, it's a blended examination strategy, actually, which is typical for most medical programs. Okay. So there are 9 questions. We are going to try and keep this to an hour or just afterwards. So if any last minute questions, please do tap them in now, but we will have to have a cut off at some point to let Chris and his team get on with the rest of their tasks for the day. But someone's asked about fees for foundation year 1. So for those that are not aware, this is actually the 6th year after you've graduated from Brunel. And someone said, are their fees eligible? Actually, in this particular case, Chris, it's not fee-based, is it?
It's the other way around. Yeah, you get paid.
You get paid, I know. You get paid as a job as an FY1 doctor, even if you're international, because your visa covers that. And foundation year 1 is a mandatory requirement because you're only provisionally registered for that particular year. You're not actually a fully registered doctor with a full license to practice. You'll have until the end and completion and successful completion of the FY1 year. Okay, if no UCAT result, do you still have a chance at the MMI interview? Yes, you do, but don't expect to be shortlisted early. You will be put, from what I understand, Chris, on a waiting list if there are any seats available for exceptional candidates.
Exactly. It's still worth applying. As I said, there are actually a few enrolled students who didn't UCAT, but if you can, we encourage it.
And do you know what the average UCAT score for the successful applicants last year was?
I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, there's no, again, some medical schools, they don't have a particular score they use for cutoff. Some do, some don't. Some use it as a guide. The university that I used to work at, their medical school, they also use it as a guide at that time. So yeah, it's worth applying anyway. The university will assess your application holistically and then come back with a decision either on shortlisting for interview. What we did last year, some of our students were waitlisted for interview and they got their interviews a bit later on in the cycle as well. Is there a particular weightage that you give to GCSEs or IB grades when ranking students for interviews, or for MYP for those students who've not yet cashed any qualifications in?
No, they are, as long as you meet the minimum entry requirements, we don't necessarily rank you. It's once you pass that point, then you're ranked by your UCAT score, and that's how you get selected to interview.
Yeah.
So, and then if we have a lot of applicants and a lot of similar UCAT scores, then we'll look at how strong the A levels and the IB are. But I think, did you mention GCSE there? I think
GCSEs, yeah. Whether you look at GCSEs,
I think for GCSEs we'd just make sure you're at the minimum and then progress you to the next round, if that makes sense.
Here's more of a question for me. Someone said, the other medical schools listed on the Medical Doorway website, can you apply directly through Medical Doorway and bypass UCAS? You can for Swansea, you can for Chester. Chester is graduate entry, however. So unless you're a graduate, you can't apply to Chester because it's a 4-year graduate entry program. You can't really apply for the program at Keele anymore. They've had a number of their seats pre-allocated anyway. So, but you can apply for the other programs, like the program at Swansea, also the St. George's Grenada Northumbria option that's available through Medical Doorway as well as all the other European and the Queen Mary Malta program as well, which is a UK degree. They can all be applied for on the Medical Doorway website, and we haven't got to put that initial application through UCAS. Someone has said about internship. Can you explain about internship period? This is the foundation years. So the internship, we don't call it internship in the UK like some other countries do. It's foundation years. So at the end of the 5-year medical program, you will go on to foundation year 1, which is under the auspices of the NHS, the local health authorities, and that is the internship period, where you'll have certain criteria to hit during that period there. You'll then move on to FY2, where you now have your full license to practice medicine. And then after that, some people do then start taking their career down a specialization route after that period. But it's not an internship like they have in some other countries. It is a fully paid job funded through the NHS by the British taxpayer. Okay, someone's asked about a UCAT with 220 with a situational judgment of 4. If you've got a situational judgment of 4, you would be rejected. In this case, Chris, would they be able to retake the UCAT if their application otherwise from that was exceptional?
In that case, I would imagine the application would be put on the waiting list.
Right.
And then if there are places at the end, would have a look and see. It's happened before. That's what would happen.
Okay. We're going to take the last 5 questions now, and then we'll sign off. So if any other questions come in after this, please, we're not going to deal with them. I do have to draw the line somewhere because we've now got 2 minutes till 2 o'clock. And then any other questions, you can email the team at Medical Doorway and we'll come back to you with answers to the queries that you've got. The one thing I will say is if we can never answer a query, we will get the answer directly from the university. I'm able to get in contact with Chris extremely quickly, and I often do. So someone's asked, are there support programs present to assist international students? Well, yeah, the university is a large university that has an established support network for international students, not just at the medical school, but wider. If there's anything else you want to elaborate on that, Chris, because we're trying to get
No, I think I touched it in the presentation, but what we do have is a really sort of strong student support service just for international medicine students at Brunel. Plus, as Ben said, that you've got the wider support available from the university as well. And that's something, that's quite unique for a medical school, because normally part of the whole university. Here you've got, the house tutor, your house tutor themselves, and all the student support managers as well.
Yeah. Someone said the fees are £49,000. No, they're just for the medical program. The other programs at Brunel have different fee structures depending on the program. So the fee that we quoted is only for the medical program, not for the other programs in Brunel. Someone said, on how long can I stand on the offer before they give a final decision to accept or reject? So once the offer is made, what timelines does the student have to work to?
So I guess it depends on when the offer is made. For example, if it's made in January, you'll have a little bit more time. If it's heading towards early summer, then you'd need to make a decision pretty much there and then. All I can say is, if you're keen to apply to Brunel Medical School, you just need to accept, just to guarantee your place.
And once the offer is unconditional, it's then you'll be issued with your confirmation of acceptance of studies to apply for your visa. And depending on the country that you're coming from, there might be a slightly different procedure. If you're coming from what's considered a lower risk country as far as UK borders are concerned, you'll find the visa process can be done one way. If you're coming from a country which requires income verification, etc., there'll be another way to apply. Critical thing is, the minute we have your unconditional offer and we've got your CAS, you need to think about getting the visa processed ASAP, because you really can't miss any of the education in medical programs. Once you get behind, you're behind for good, and that has a detrimental effect on your studies. Another question, does EPQ matter for this particular application? How do you view EPQ?
Honestly, I don't think we look at that.
Okay, so it's meant to be for those A-level candidates, the 3 subjects with EPQ not being considered. Yeah. Okay, last one from James. If a student is an international student for fees perspective, but a UK passport holder, are they favoured by UK universities because they'll pay international fees? And will they be able to remain and work in the UK NHS because they have UK citizenship? I think this is a pretty simple one. So you'll be considered equally for the international seats as anyone. Obviously, you're not going to need a visa because you've got a UK passport. Obviously, you're not going to have a work permit to work in the NHS. You will simply be considered by the NHS as a British national with a British passport, and you're not going to have any issue on getting a job just because you happen to be international at university for fees. That's just simply the fee structure you had to apply to because of the UK regulations on who gets domestic funding, etc. So of course you can work anywhere in the UK with a UK passport. There's no restrictions on your ability to work at all. As I said before, when you make your application, you will receive a fee status query questionnaire. So the university will then confirm on paper what your fee status will be. And the last one was very simply, will the applicant be informed of the results, successful or not, after the interview? Of course, if you receive an offer, you'll be emailed the information on how to accept the offer and all the details on that and relevant paperwork. If you're not, you'll receive obviously a confirmation that you've not got through the interview, and then you can liaise with the team here at Medical Doorway to look at other options. So I've brought it to an end just after 2 o'clock, which is what we planned. I want to say thank you to everyone that's attended. A huge thank you to Chris and the team at Brunel. For those that were in the Emirates who are GEMS students, then the university are going to be with us at the GEMS World Academy next month, and I've got a presentation to do there as well. So for those that want to actually meet the university face to face, if you are a GEMS student and in Dubai, that's something that we'll look forward to doing next month. Thanks for all the warm words at the end from people there saying thank you for this. This recording is going to be, well, it is on YouTube now, and we're going to send an email out following this webinar to actually then give people a link so they can take another look at the webinar. If you've got any questions, please hello@medicaldoorway.com or go to our website and click book a consultation. You get a free half-an-hour Zoom call with us every Monday or Wednesday if you want it, and we can discuss Brunel and every other program that we work with as well. I'm going to say thank you to Chris. We should be visiting the campus in Brunel before too long, actually. Brilliant. It's been our agenda to do, so we'll reach out to you soon regarding that. But I want to say thank you to everyone who's attended, and a huge thank you to Chris. And stay safe, and we hope to see you again sometime soon.
Bye, everyone.